What's going on, guys? This is Mitchell back with another episode of Slammed Outdoors, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys probably one of the most historic rigs in all of fishing, one of historically the most effective rigs in all of fishing, and that is the Carolina rig. So right now, I fish in Ohio. It's like 93 out during the day, and one of the best ways to catch fish when it gets really hot out, when they go to deep water, they're kind of shut off, is the Carolina rig. So I'm going to be showing you guys how to tie that today. All right, so to start with, for a Carolina rig, you're going to be looking for really any rod that can throw a bait that's at least a ½ ounce. So probably more than that. I would probably recommend looking for a bait caster. If you can throw one, that would probably be the easiest thing to throw this on. This rod is rated to throw 3/8 to an ounce. And because of that, it makes it pretty nice for a Carolina rig rod. Ideally, the longer the better. Longer rods help, but it really doesn't matter too much. If you've got a heavy 7-foot rod, you can definitely fish with that. Longer rod helps. Bait casting reel's probably going to be the way to go. But if you have a big heavy spinning rod, go for it. I don't see any reason you couldn't throw a Carolina rig on that. And then for your main line, I would probably recommend braid, just because it's going to be very sensitive. It might not be the most abrasion, which could be kind of important with the Carolina rig. I throw them on with braid. I haven't had any issues. It kind of helps you feel your bait a little bit better. So I would probably recommend heavy braid on a bait caster that throws up to an ounce. But if you can't meet that exactly, I'm sure you can probably come up with a good rig that'll work too. All right, guys, so there are going to be really two ways to go about rigging this. Either way, you're going to be dealing with the same basic components. So the pieces that you're going to need kind of to start with are, if you're just kind of looking to rig this on your own and you just have all the pieces laying around, you're going to need a bullet weight like you would use for like a Texas rig, a swivel, which is just a swivel. They're pretty common. This piece is a little interesting. This is like a bead, like a knocker bead or whatever. You need a bead, ideally. You can probably throw on without one, but it really helps. And then just a hook. So this is going to be, the hook we're using it's called a G-Lock worm hook. It's like a 3/0. It's kind of a unique shape, but it's good for like Texas rig plastics, and it's a good Carolina rig hook. But really any kind of like EWG or worm hook you could definitely use. So what you're going to start with is you're going to have your main line, which again, I'm kind of recommending braid, but if you need mono or fluorocarbon, I think you can definitely use those. But braid is just going to help you feel them a little sooner, which with the Carolina rig, one of the biggest problems is feeling the fish right away. When they eat it, a lot of times it'll take a minute to feel them before you really set the hook on them. But braid helps with that. You'll be able to see your lines swim off. You'll be able to feel them a little quicker. And there's really two different ways you can go about tying this thing. So the first way, kind of the traditional way, is going to be just taking all these components and just doing it. So first thing is going to be bullet weight with kind of that tip end going in first, like it would be if it was a Texas rig. It just slides on there. Now, what you're going to do next is you're going to put your bead on here. And what the bead is going to do is it's going to prevent your bullet weight from coming back and hitting on your swivel, because you really don't want the knot that you're tying on your swivel to get damaged. There are some knots that I think you could probably tie, like a Snell knot or something if you're familiar with that. I think there are ways around this. What you're going to do is you're just going to tie whatever knot you want to the swivel from here, and then you're just going to have your hook and your bead and your weight on here. So I'm just going to tie like the fisherman's real quick just to get this on here, show you guys. Probably going to turn around and cut this off in a minute, so not anything too fancy. And then from there, so you're going to have, so now your bullet weight and your bead are going to be crashing down on this. And it's supposed to help drag your bait along the bottom. But the goal of this is going to be to keep your weight like distance from your bait. So that way it doesn't have the same real presentation as the like a Texas rig or anything like that. So you're effectively just going to drag this bullet weight across the bottom, and then your bait is going to be behind this thing on the leader. So now you just need to tie a leader knot. So then we'll just say, for example, I'm not going to cut this, but right here, if you were to tie this off, you would then just have this piece just kind of hanging back here. And then you're going to have like an 18-inch to like a 36-inch, so 1.5 to 3 foot piece of line. Ideally fluorocarbon, like 12 to 20 pound, but mono works too. Wouldn't go braid here just because it's not super abrasion resistant and because the fish will see it. So something clear, and ideally mono and fluoro. Your bait should, when it hits rocks, it should kind of float up in the water column a little bit, give a unique presentation. There are a lot of different baits you can throw with a Carolina rig. It depends on your area. Some people throw a big worm. This is a baby brush hog. This is one of the most common baits you'll see with the Carolina rig. And you just Texas rig this and it'll just look good. You get your hook point in there, kind of sticking out here. That way the fish can, hopefully, when the fish swims over and just eats it, you get a good hook set and then you can catch them. Other baits that people throw are the lizard made by Zoom. Really any kind of lizard, any kind of baby brush hog. I've noticed the common trend is like long, thin baits is kind of the go-to with these. So like Guggen makes the trench hog is kind of their version of a Carolina rig bait. The Gary Yamamoto Senko is really my go-to. Whenever I'm throwing this, I usually throw a Senko just because fish usually don't see a Senko dragging along the bottom in 30 feet of water. But presentation-wise, how you're going to fish this is once you have this thing rigged and ready to go, you're just going to throw this thing offshore, and you're going to be fishing for those bass that are offshore. They don't really want to eat anything, and they're just kind of looking to hang out, and they're not really active in chasing stuff, but you're just kind of looking to slow drag this past them. It's also a great bait to kind of learn the contour of your lakes, especially if you don't have a fish finder or anything and you really want to learn like how deep it is, or if you're fishing rocks or wood, just because you can throw this thing in about anything and it's really weedless, just because the bait, Texas rigs are pretty weedless, and you're just dragging it through here with heavy braids, so it should just drag through here pretty well. You don't get stuck a lot, I guess is what I'm getting at. So this way you can figure out, and you can catch them in anything on this. I mean, they eat it in grass, they eat it in heavy wood. There's really not a presentation that they won't eat a Carolina rig in. So I think that's pretty cool. Kind of going back to the rigging side of it, there's another way to go about rigging this bait. And this is something that's gotten more common in recent years. And honestly, if you're looking to get into throwing a Carolina rig, this would probably be the method I would recommend. And this is going back to the first step. So we took all of our components here and put it together. There's another way to do this. So instead of having to go out and buy a swivel and having to go buy a bullet weight and a bead and these little hooks, well, you're still gonna need the hooks, I guess, but if you're looking to get all of it in one, there's a couple companies that make these kind of all-in-one packs. So it has a bullet weight with a little bead in front of it, and then this little bead thing here, and then a little clicker weight. So it makes more sound, and it's easier to tie off to without damaging any of your knots. So if you really think you're going to get into Carolina rig fishing and throw it a lot, I'd probably recommend buying these. You can find them in Cabela's. I forget exactly who makes them. This is what I use. So this way you can just kind of tie this off, and it's just going to be a lot easier to fish with. This is what I just have on here right now. And then, again, for the leader, you're just going to want to tie on either mono or fluorocarbon below this piece. Anywhere between like 10 and 20 pounds, I would say. I have 12 pound on here. The lighter your line is, you're at a higher risk for breaking off, but you are at a higher risk for getting bit also. So the finished product of a Carolina rig should look something like that. And then the way you're going to want to think of this, I'll just demonstrate this on a pool table, is your bait is just going to drag across it. It's just going to drag and follow that weight along the bottom, and it looks really good in the water because fish don't really associate that clicker weight ahead of this thing with the bait that's trailing behind it. And it really lets you drag a bait effectively and cover water. So if you like dragging a jig, looking for an alternative, you're like, oh man, I really don't want to drag a football jig 35 feet of water, this is a great way to do that. So once again, this is the Carolina rig if you're looking to learn more about it. It's one of the most effective rigs year round because you can fish offshore with it. It's right up there with the drop shot, in my opinion. And you can throw it with really about any soft plastic you want. Throw it with a craw, like a Creature trailer if you wanted to. This is the Zoom Brush Hog. So I've got a couple packs of kind of Carolina rig baits in here. So like this is like the Zoom Lizard, like a big 6-inch lizard. This works pretty well. And usually I do throw Senkos though. Like the Gary Yamamoto 5-inch Senko is probably my go-to. Just because a lot of the, like it's a great bass bait and they usually don't see it on Carolina rigs. So get my Carolina rig box back in order here. So thank you guys for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. If you want to see more tutorial videos like the Carolina rig video, feel free to check out our channel. And we have a couple up already. Like I have one about rigging a punch rig, rigging an Alabama rig. Really rigs I just find interesting that I've looked up how to rig in the past and I've kind of figured out. Thanks to some other videos, I want to kind of spread that to you guys. So if you guys find this and you find this interesting, make sure to check out some of our other videos. And if there's a rig that we haven't covered yet, I would be happy to cover it in a video. So just comment below if there's something like that you want to see, and I will catch you guys in our next video. Until then, see you guys next time, and peace out.